Hey guys, it's Claire. I'm one half of the Ormewoods. Welcome back. We are in North Atlanta, Zone 7B, and we've got so much to talk about. It's July 10th, I believe, that I just want to kind of walk you through a whole garden and just update you on where we are. The first thing that we did today was we replanted our GreenStalks, and I know a lot of you have these. We really like the product, and we like it so much we bought one for my mom. And I think it's really helpful if you don't have a ton of space, especially like if you have like a balcony apartment or just a little bit of land. But one thing you've got to know about it is it has to stay watered. It is a container, and containers dry out really, really quickly. So we have not done a great job of keeping ours watered. We've been traveling, we've had stuff going on, and it's suffered for that. So you can see over here I have basils, some basils that have survived, but then a lot of spots that are just empty. And that's because we filled this whole thing up with basil. In fact, there's a video on it, but then very few germinated. And I think that's not because of the seeds. I think it's because we just were not watering it as aggressively as we needed to water it. So if you have one of these GreenStalks, just make sure you make that commitment to keep it watered. What I did today is I went back through and I just replanted new seeds on the spots that hadn't germinated. This was our lettuce, and lettuce, when it gets hot like this, we're north of Atlanta, it's very, very hot, it tends to bolt, it gets bitter, it doesn't taste great, so I pulled it all out, and I went ahead and planted some coneflowers or echinacea, and I'm not gonna leave them in here. I'm almost using these top 3 tiers as like a seed starter platform. So we're gonna get the echinacea going, and then we'll transfer them out and put them in the ground, hopefully around this little office border over here. Eggplant and jalapenos, let's just see what comes up, take the ones that are the strongest and get those in the back beds. But then I did some bunching onions, some spearmint, some cilantro, some parsley, and pumpkin. And so, I don't know how Dawn's gonna feel about this, but pumpkin vines, and it pulls out and it spills everywhere. And by planting pumpkin right now, you should have pumpkin in time for Halloween in the fall. So I thought it might be really fun to just have a vine surrounding this little area with pumpkins on it by October, November. So we'll keep you posted. You can see how that looks. All right, let me show you what we did in the backyard. Okay, so this is kind of cool, and I want Don to do a video on it, like just about this, so be looking for that. He likes to be behind the scenes a little bit more. So, give us a comment if you want to see Don actually talk about this, because he's actually good on camera. He just is self-conscious. But his family apparently has a tomato named after them. It's the hayslip tomato, and it is a determinate, which means it will not grow indefinitely. It'll grow to a certain height, it'll produce a certain amount of fruit, and then it's done. But it's the hayslip, Hayslip. And when he found out about it from one of he does a Zoom call with his mom and his sister every week, and he found out about it on one of the calls, and then he went online and found the hayslip seeds, so he ordered them, so we've planted them. And we know it's late in the season, we know these may or may not do, but that's not because the seeds aren't viable, it's just because we got to it, late in the season. But that's really cool, right?
Little babies.
Okay, so when we did our smiley face garden, which I think was Mother's Day, and there's a video on that, we actually went to this great nursery called Lady Slipper. And is it in Canton? I think it's in Canton. It's somewhere, west of where we are. We're in Roswell, Alpharetta. So we had these plants we had not yet gotten in the ground, and I was really worried they were gonna die. And so Don was sweet enough today to plant them. These are the New Guinea impatiens, and this is lantana. And so we'll be really excited to just have that fill out, and we'll keep you posted. You'll get to see it in future garden tours. So you guys, we just upgraded our video equipment and our sound equipment, and we hope that you can tell a difference and that you enjoy that. But I will say what we're using right now is a lot heavier. So if you notice any kind of shakiness, it's just because we're getting used to like a different weight. It's just a different feel, and I promise you after a few videos we'll have it down. So thank you for your patience with us as we try to create the best possible content for you. So there's so much going on that I don't really want to go through all the beds. So just trust me, we will come back to these other beds in a different video. But I do want to draw your attention to one thing. This tomato plant, and this bed is lined with tomato plants, and you may remember from a past video when I was pruning tomato plants from over there, like literally just snipping off the pieces, I just shoved these in the dirt. And I said, supposedly you can shove these in the dirt and they'll grow a tomato plant. And so this was the experiment. And every single one of them has, you guys, every single one. Which means if you're on a budget, you don't even need to go buy a bunch of tomato plants. If you can buy a tomato plant and every time you prune it, shove it in the ground, you've got, I mean, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus there's some over here, 7, 8, 9. I mean, we've got a ton of just free tomato plants that came from pruning the ones that we got. So I just want you to know that this works, and when you're pruning, if you're wanting more plants, at least for tomatoes, stick them in the ground and they shall grow. Okay, so I learned something last week at a business meeting that kind of blew my mind, and I'm wondering if any of you have ever heard this, and if you have, or if you haven't, you need to comment, because this is like crazy to me. We're growing pinto beans. You know, my daughter is vegetarian, my son eats very little meat, Dawn and I eat meat, but we like to eat more plant-based if we can. So I was really pumped this year about growing, like purposefully growing with intention, more plant-based proteins. So these are pinto beans. Well, I've been popping these off, shelling them, and putting them into my salads, and they're quite delicious. Well, when I was at my business meeting, somebody was like, no, you can't do that, that's poison. That's actually poisonous. And I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm still here, but do I need to pull these off and just let them dry and then use the beans as pinto beans? Or is it just I should cook them and not eat them raw? Because I have been eating them raw. But to be honest with you, they've been sort of making my salad. They're really nutty tasting, and I've just enjoyed them so much in my salad. So if you know if that's true or not, I would love to hear from you. Okay, so we have something we've never grown before, and it is the Hungarian hot wax banana peppers. And I don't know about you guys, but I love a Greek salad. I love those like pepperoncinis and all that stuff. So that's what I thought I was growing. But honestly, I don't think that's what I'm growing, because look at how much bigger these are than like a pepperoncini. But I could be wrong. I thought pepperoncinis were, you know, the banana peppers. But these are Hungarian hot wax from Baker Creek. And you can harvest them at this size, or they will turn colors and be even spicier. So I ate one the other day. It was delicious, but it tasted a lot like a green pepper. Like it didn't have any heat to it. It just tasted like a green pepper, which would be nice. But you know, that banana pepper flavor, if you like that flavor, that was what I was really looking for. So we're gonna keep monitoring these. And then honestly, Dawn shot some great footage today about the tomatoes so that you could really see how full they were, and hopefully we can maybe insert just some of those visual shots in here. But we spent most of the day pruning. And so for those of you that are new to the channel, let me give you like the quick and dirty. We planted a bunch of tomatoes, and one of the things that I've learned to do over the years is just plant a bunch of seeds, see what comes up, and then separate them. Tomatoes are extraordinarily resilient. So there's no point in like taking up all this real estate in your bed per one seed. Just go ahead and, you know, dump the seeds, let them grow. You can't do that with every seed, but you can do them with tomatoes because they're so resilient, and then separate them. So our timing of this was not great because we went on vacation. When we came back, the plants were so vigorously healthy and thriving that I was a little bit nervous to start transplanting everything. And so what I decided to do was have a little experiment and let's just see what it looked like to go wild. Well, over the last few weeks, the wildness is just, it's too wild. Tomato plants need ventilation, they need airflow, they need air to get around them or they get disease. And you don't want their leaves touching the dirt, you don't want rain to be able to splash back on them, they get disease. And you'll see, Dawn's gonna bring the camera here in a minute and show you all the fruit we have. We have so many fruits, we don't wanna lose this or lose an early harvest because we didn't prune properly. So we aggressively pruned today, and then Dawn, I would like hold a stem and then Dawn would like support it with a tie, which in the beginning we were thinking, let's just see what happens if it goes wild. But we decided we love tomatoes too much and we cannot possibly think about losing that many tomatoes. So these are ground cherries, and just like the Kahari melon that's over on the other side of the garden, we weren't familiar with this food until we started watching Roots and Refuge Farm. And the ground cherries and the Kahari melon were two things that we were like, that looks kind of cool. We might like to try it. So we're just waiting for these to get yellowy brown in their husk, if you can see them. And then we're going to be really excited about trying them for the first time because we've never, neither one of us, none of my family has ever had a ground cherry. In fact, my friend Marcy was over yesterday, and she's an extremely experienced gardener. She'd never even heard of a ground cherry. So I felt very like rock star, like I'm official, like I grew a ground cherry. So I mentioned that the Black Princes were over there, the tomatoes, and those were my absolute favorite last year. But we're growing over here the Paul Robesons, and again, this is a tomato that a lot of the YouTubers we like to watch grow. We've never grown it. And so I am very excited about what this is going to taste like because we've heard so many good things. But we just had to aggressively prune, and you can see that like the nasturtiums that I planted, which to be fair, they have done a kick butt job at just keeping pests away. They've been just so shaded out, and so I'm hoping that they'll come back to life. And then Dawn and I have decided with the squash, you can see this big old squash. When we planted this bed, you guys, the idea was the squash would line the middle, but because I guess the sun is so over here, the squash is just growing this way and it's shading out the stuff on the edge. We've eaten so much squash. I think we've had our fill of squash. So, you know, it's starting to get yellow. We pruned off a lot today, yellow and kind of gross and slimy. We're going to probably pull what we can get off this next harvest and then pull it. And whether we plant new squash plants or we plant something else, I'm not sure. But definitely we don't want to allow disease to get into our bed. Look, get a beetle if you can right here. This is not a ladybug, you guys. Ladybugs have black heads, and if you think that's a ladybug, then you are mistaken. Those things will eat your plants. They will destroy your garden. So if you see those, they are not ladybugs. Ladybugs are red and they have black heads. So we hit 1,000 subscribers, which is so amazing because we gave ourselves a year to do that, and we did it in basically 6 months. And that is such a shout out to you guys because you were watching the content and then you were being so supportive of us, and I just can't tell you how much that means. And so we are giving away free merch. We are giving away Ormewoods t-shirts and Ormewoods tanks and all that kind of good stuff. So there's another video about that. So look for the 1,000 subscribers, you know, free merch giveaway if you're interested in that. But otherwise, just know that we appreciate your watching. We know that you have other things to do with your day. And the fact that you're spending time hanging out with us is just really cool. And we're having a good time doing this. And we hope you're having a good time watching. And we'll see you next Sunday.